Okay, howdy folks, and welcome. This is a little Arma 3 test video that I am putting up. It is not intended to be a full Voodoo Squad episode. It's just intended for me to show off some of the stuff that I've been experimenting with over the last few months while I've been working on new Arma 3 missions. So, the very first thing that I want to call your attention to is the fact that I'm currently using Vorpx with my Oculus Rift S headset. I'm in VR right now. In fact, if I go to the internal view, the first person view, you will see that I now have a full range of motion here. I can move my head around, and BelGeode, my character, is doing the same thing. So that's awesome, and that's number one. And I think I've got this just in the right place where, for me, everything looks to be around the proper scale, as if I were actually standing in this character's body. And for you, the viewer, everything on a monitor should look nice and crisp and big enough that you can see what's going on with the action. I may or may not incorporate the VR point of view into my Voodoo Squad missions. We'll see how it goes. Right now, I'm still doing it the old fashioned way without VR. All right, but the major feature of this video, I want to show off this helicopter right here. This is part of the Project Hatchet. Uh, it is the H-60 family of helicopters, so the UH-60, the MH-60, the SH-60, so on and so forth. This is, in my opinion, the single best helicopter in Arma 3 right now. And I say that for multiple reasons. Aside from the fact that, look at the textures, they're just absolutely gorgeous. This thing is well modeled both inside and out. It is also the most in depth helicopter. While there's no way that Arma could ever compete with the likes of DCS World or even X-Plane for that matter, as far as, being totally in depth, this one certainly does give it the college try. There's a lot of interactivity with it, as we will find out. Now, you can, of course, fit multiple crew in there, so it's useful for both multiplayer and single player. And as you may have noticed, I've drafted a number of Voodoo Squad members. We'll actually just kind of move around the helicopter here. So the first person you're going to notice is good old Allie. She is always my co-pilot, and she's looking bored as all get out right now, but she's eager to fly. And if we go to the back, you'll see a couple of our newer members. So we've got Sergeant Tiffany Medrano, who is our new medic. And on the opposite side, we have Sergeant Melanie Carter, our UAV expert. And both of them are going to be our minigun gunners. I will point something out. The animations and poses are still a work in progress with this bird. This entire bird is a work in progress, but that in particular, because you'll notice right now Tiffany's looking really uncomfortable with the way her arms are placed. Yeah, I'm hoping that they fix that sometime soon. And then I've also got our explosives ordnance specialist, Mr. Lee Campbell, in the back, and he's on the big heavy gun there. This particular version of the Black Hawk is called the Nighthawk. This is the Marine Corps version, so that's why it's got the extra firepower in the back, because you know the Marines don't play. And even though I do have all this firepower with me, the whole purpose of this is not to do combat today. I'm not going to show you a bunch of Boomflowahs. I am, however, going to show you, or at least attempt to, show you some sling loading. So you're going to notice three little cargo items here. There's a box that may contain supplies or ammos or weapons. There is a pallet with 4 fuel drums or oil drums on it. And there is what they call a little fuel pod, which is kind of like a self-contained gas pod, I guess. All three of these items need to be in the southern part of Malden. So we are in the northern part of Malden at this airport, and we're going to pick them up one by one, fly them down to the port in South Malden, and hopefully drop them off safely. I say hopefully because I am using advanced flight model for this helicopter, and I don't often use advanced flight model with this helicopter. I have tested it a number of times, but sometimes things can get squirrely because it is still a work in progress. So just be advised. All right, but with that having been said, we're going to hop into the Whirlybird here and we'll get her started, and I'll show you just how in depth they have gone with this helicopter. First things first, we'll need to get inside. Okay, and we are inside, and first thing that I noticed from my point of view is everything looks to be just the right scale. I'm looking at my hands, and yeah, those pretty much look like how big my hands would look in real life, so that works. And you can also see that pretty much everything is well modeled in this helicopter. Leaps and bounds ahead of all the other helicopters in Arma, including the default helicopters, which I thought the default helicopters are pretty well modeled. They went above and beyond on this one. Not everything is interactable, but as you will see, most of it is. The big giveaway is going to be whenever you mouse over something and you see words appear. You can put in the options to make that not happen, but I kind of like having it there because I'm still pretty much learning this thing. So it kind of comes in handy to be able to see which I can interact with or not. But that brings us to our next point. You'll notice a little white dot that's kind of moving where my head moves. That's your interaction cursor. And actually, hang on a second. Let me get rid of this little sensor window at the bottom. We'll bring that back up a little later. So the interaction cursor has two ways that you can use it. First way that you can use it, when you highlight a switch that can go either up or down, it will say mouse wheel down or mouse wheel up, depending on which direction you can pull it to activate it. Now, bear in mind with Arma, when you're in a vehicle and you use a mouse wheel, it automatically brings up the vehicle menu as well. So that is a little annoying, and I have not yet found a workaround for that. I still need to do some more investigating to figure out how to separate that from the vehicle menu so it's not as annoying. The second thing that you're going to need to have on is going to be the F key, which is our default interaction key with the push buttons. So in the case of this helicopter, we do have like checklists and so on and so forth that we can interact with. So you need to have the button or the key F bound to something, which in my case, I have it bound to my left mouse click on my Cytec X52. I have to hold down the pinky switch and press left click mouse, and that basically just tells Arma press the letter F. All right, but let's see if we can get this puppy started here. So Ali, make sure there's no one coming close by while we start up. And I'm actually going to zoom in a little bit because I don't have the capability of leaning to the left or to the right. So you'll notice a vehicle menu came up as we have our battery switches on. And I think that should activate. Yes, that activates our little menu here. So we're going to press F to activate a checklist. We're going to go start up. And you'll notice the very first things were gens 1 and 2 on and battery 1 and 2 on. We already got the batteries on, so we're going to need the gens on. And look at this. All of a sudden, everything's got numbers. So it actually tells you in what order you should be flipping these switches. So let's get gen 2 and gen 1. We already did the batteries, so that was number 2 on our list. Number 3 on our list is going to be the fuel pump, so we'll set that to APU boost. And of course, you'll notice the numbers change colors. APU cont, that's our actual APU system, so we'll turn that on. Okay, looking good, looking good. Next thing we're going to need is our APU generator, so we'll flip that to the down position. And of course, our standby instruments, so we'll turn those on as well. All right, let's go ahead and zoom that back out, and we'll take a look at the ICAS. ICAS is, of course, how you can tell what your engines are doing, your rotors, so on and so forth. And you'll notice it also says the APU is currently on. So we're pretty much done with that startup checklist. So we're going to go to the engine start page. And I'm going to go through the list really quick, and then we'll do everything step by step. So step 7, ignition key to on. We can do that since that's right here. There we go. And I'm actually going to close that out again. All right, air source to start on APU. Fuel 1, engine 1, engine power to idle, engine power to fly, and then repeat steps 9 through 12 for engine 2, and then turn the APU off. Okay, pretty straightforward stuff. So we'll zoom back out, we'll go back to the up, and you'll notice everything's changed now. So we've got item number 8, which is the APU source. So we'll go ahead and flip that to the down position. That just turned to green. And then we're going to cast our attention to the engine. So on both sides of the throttles here, you're going to see the fuel systems. Now, since we can't see it, Allie's on the other side, but she's feeling lazy right now. So we're going to turn it on ourselves. And now we're ready for engine start. So we click F. Listen for that to come up. And put our fuel condition lever down 1 notch. So it's going to go to idle, to ground idle, basically. Now we can also check our progress on the ICAS. So you can see everything on the left side is starting to come up. And once that all reaches past 88, we can flip the lever to its full position for flight idle. But yeah, it looks like we've got a good start on engine 1. So let's go ahead and work on engine 2. We'll get our fuel on for engine 2. Hit the engine start for engine 2. And we're going to set condition lever 2 to idle. We'll wait for that to pop up. There we go. Engine 1's already at 100. Engine 2 should be following suit in a moment. And now we could actually pull our condition lever for engine 1 to flight idle. We'll wait for engine 2 to pop up. All right, it's at 80, so it's almost there. Just waiting for that last one, the torque, to go up. All right, it's pretty much there, so we can flip that to flight idle. Okay, and then the last thing we need to do is turn our APU back off. So the APU can't switch. We want to flip you back to your center position. While we're at it, we're also going to need to turn off the APU gen, because obviously with the APU off, we're not really generating any power, so we don't need that on. The boost is currently set to APU, so we can put that in the center, and same thing for the air source. We can put that to engine, and that should be fine. All right. Believe it or not, that is all we need to do to get this puppy started up. So we're pretty much good to go right now. The last thing that we want to do is we want to get off the checklist page. The reason why, you'll notice the numbers are still there, and even though they've changed from red to green, we definitely don't want to see them all the time. So I put it back to main menu, and then I just put it to fuel, because this is a quick, easy way for me to tell just how much fuel I've got left in this thing. And especially if you're in combat and you get shot in the fuel tanks or something like that, probably a good idea to know how much gas you've got. All right, last thing I'm going to show you before we take off and do some shenanigans with cargo is this ICAS page. So you'll notice there are several options that you have. You could set it up as a dual PFD. Why you would want to do that, I have no idea. I suppose maybe if you wanted to change this to something else, you could probably put the ICAS on here. You've got an ND, which I don't believe works. ICAS is what we were on before. FLIR, or forward-looking infrared, pretty straightforward stuff. You've probably seen that before. We're not going to mess with that today, but we are going to mess with this. This is the Tack Page. Basically, it's a moving map, and I find it useful to zoom in about 4 notches. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Essentially what this does is this takes a map of the map that you're on and presents this in a way where you are in the center of the map and you can see pretty much where you're flying. It's pretty cool. It's rather basic, but for me it's useful, especially when trying to figure out where exactly it is I need to be. I have a photographic memory, so I remember a lot of the features that I'm looking at. Something like that comes in real handy. All right. The only thing that's kind of a what's going on moment is you'll notice a master caution. We don't really have a way of pressing that. There's no way to turn that off, and our RPMs are actually good, but it is what it is. All right, let's go to the outside view really quick, make sure everything looks kosher, and then we'll go play with some cargo. Okay, so everything is looking pretty kosher, so we're ready to start playing around with some cargo. So I've activated the Sling Load page, and real quick to go over how that works if you're not familiar with. Anything that is sling loadable that your helicopter can pick up, and it does vary by helicopter, will appear on this little map, if you will, when you're within range of it. It'll appear as a red dot with a diamond around it. As you get within the parameters of being able to pick it up, that dot will change from red to green. And that means that, you're pretty much in a position where you should be able to pick it up. So we're going to test that theory. We lift up our collective here. And I'm in advanced mode, so don't expect this to go very well. I'm not very good at this sort of thing. Probably going to be all over the place. But we're going to rotate around here. And like I said, we could pick up that Polaris, but it's just way too heavy for me to deal with right now. So we do have a waypoint over here. So we're going to use that waypoint as our marker. And you'll notice on the SLA page, we currently have a green dot. That is the little cargo pod that's right in front of us. It's now turning into a red dot because I'm backing away from it. If you notice the HMD in the center of the screen there, it actually tells you which way you're hovering. So pretty much I'm all over the place. I'm trying to straighten myself out. All right, about there should be good. We'll just push forward a touch. And I need to make this quick. Nope. Too far forward. All right, this could take a while. Okay, I'd rather approach it from the front, so we'll do it this way. And hook it. Try to stay in position. We are a little too far out. Need to swing a little to the left and a little bit back. Okay, that sound indicates that it's hooked, so now we can go straight up. Let's go to outside view. All right, so we successfully snagged us a cargo pod, and we're just going to head over this mountain here and head to our next waypoint, which you will notice is kind of like a baseball diamond, or I guess that's a jewelry diamond, only inverted. But that's pretty much where we need to go. That's where the port is. So sling loading in and of itself is a pretty tricky and challenging endeavor. It is probably one of the most frustrating yet rewarding things that you can do in any flight sim, whether it be DCS, X-Plane, or this Arma, which isn't technically a flight sim, but it's a mil sim, so we're going to count that as close enough. But yeah, regardless of whichever sim you're using, it takes nerves of steel to try and pull off sling loading. And we're going to attempt to do it 3 times with this thing here. So that's going to make life really interesting. But you'll notice on the Sling Load page that the cargo is pretty much centered at the bottom. It's got 4 cables attached to it, so it's relatively stable as long as I don't do any weird, funky flying. It should not act all crazy. But yes, everything should be pretty good, and we are a little fast and a little high, so I'm going to pull the collective down a bit. There's our bay up ahead. We are supposed to go a little further out, like pretty close to where the lighthouse is at the very tip of the island there. And then we turn around and come into the port, which is actually a lot closer than you might think. There's going to be a bunch of cargo containers over by where we need to drop this thing off, so that's ultimately what we're looking for. And the real trick is going to be trying to do this without any bugs kicking in because, like I said, this helicopter is a work in progress, and I have noticed some situations where it does tend to kind of flip around. Obviously, not what it's supposed to do, but sometimes it does misbehave. I'm hoping we don't have to deal with that this time around. But since we are really high, we are going to need to come down. Gained way too much altitude for that. But yeah, that's where we need to go with it. You may have noticed a little factory, or maybe it's a power company with some smokestacks attached to it. Pretty close to there is where we need to drop these things off. So I'm going to head out to sea as we lower. Oh, see, there's the bug that I was telling you about. That's not supposed to happen. That is not supposed to happen. All right, but we're still lowering our altitude here. We're at 1,000 feet up. And we're going to go out to sea a little bit more, and then we'll flip around. But yeah, work in progress stuff. Bugs are to be expected, and of course, anything you find, report. All right, we are kind of slow, 22 miles per hour, 22 knots actually. So let's keep bringing her in. Now, the other thing you're going to notice on our little map display here, it shows your waypoints. It does show your waypoints, so that'll help as far as navigation goes if you prefer to do things that way as opposed to the typical Arma cheat where you can see it's got a little waypoint that tells you exactly where you need to go. All right. The other thing to be concerned with when you are in advanced flight model, you can get into vortex ring state, and it is brutal. It is very unforgiving with this thing here. So obviously you gotta mind your P's and Q's, watch your collective, watch your cyclic, watch your pedals, all that good jazz, just to make sure that you are not going to die a horrible screaming death. All right, but you can see the diamond that I have placed on the waypoint just to the left of the little power station. That's where we're headed. So we're going to pull it back just a touch here. We'll keep coming down. I'll give it a little bit more collective so we don't fall out the sky. And I believe this helicopter, the rope underneath or the cables underneath go down about 30 feet. So I need to make sure I am right around at 30 feet before I disconnect this load. All right, so now comes the fun part. I could go to the outside view for this, but the whole point of my doing this in VR is to experience it in first person. So naturally, I want to stay indoors for that. I'm going to use that diamond as a marker because I want to kind of get this as close to there as possible. I am mindful of the fact that my radar altimeter is counting down the distance to the ground level, to sea level, and not to the actual terrain or any scenery on top of it. And why am I drifting to the right? I don't want to drift to the right. Okay, right about there should be good. We're going to push forward a bit and a little to the left. Now, if you cast your eyes on the SLA gauge on the right, you notice it goes from red to yellow. When it gets to green is when we're going to let go of the load because that should indicate to us that it is currently on the ground. Just want to make sure I'm not going to hit this building. All right, right there should be good. We'll let it go. And let's lift off and check out our handiwork. We'll just kind of rotate around here. Now, typically, of course, if you're in Arma, and especially if you're in multiplayer, you'll probably have somebody on the ground, or at the very least, somebody in your helicopter to tell you how you're doing, which way to go, and when to drop this thing. But I think we did a pretty decent job there. It looks like it landed right side up, I'm hoping. We're just going to count that as a win right there. Let's head back and grab our second bit of cargo, which should be the 4 fuel drums attached to the pallet. And we'll haul butt and take it over here. So on our trip back, we'll go to the outside view, and when we come back in, we'll be ready to hook this bad boy. Alright, so welcome back. We are closing in on Malden Airport, and we need to be on the north side of the tarmac there. We're coming in awfully fast, so I'm pulling the nose up and dropping the collective again. And hopefully we'll be able to bleed off some of the speed. I'll probably do a pedal turn to help us slow down. But for now, we'll just do it the old-fashioned way here. And we're looking for the fuel drums, so that should be relatively easy to find. Do need to lose a lot more altitude though, so I'm actually going to lower my collective to its flight idle position, as I call it, which is like the detent just before it's fully at idle on my Cytec X52. And we'll keep coming down. We are at 1,000 feet. How did I get so high? Sheesh. All right, there it is. There's our cargo. So we're going to keep coming down, and we're also going to keep some forward speed, because as I mentioned earlier, you can get into vortex ring state, and that is bad. That is very bad. Typically, vortex ring state is induced because your forward speed is too low and your vertical speed is too high in the downward. So you're basically flying through your own rotor downwash, and it is exacerbated if you try to increase your collective. The way to get out of it is typically to turn your helicopter in a direction to get out of that downwash and just kind of tip forward. Or you could tip back or sideways using the Claude Vuichard or Vuichard method. I don't even know how to say his name. Claude. We'll just call him Claude's method. Yeah. But yeah, that's how you would get out of it. Basically push your helicopter out of its own wake. All right, there's our cargo guy. So we're going to keep bringing her down. We are at 18 knots, so we're definitely slow enough. We should be able to just go right down that yellow line and pick it up. Since this video is getting a little longer, I'll forego the very last fuel pod. We'll just do this fuel drum pallet and consider it done. So here we go. We'll keep bringing her down. You'll notice on the SLA page, it is telling you that we are right about in range or getting close to it. We just passed up the Polaris, which was appearing as a red dot. And as we push forward, we should soon see the little fuel drums. We're low enough right now that everything should be in the green. But of course, keeping her stable is going to be another thing, because you can see I'm already to the left of where I should be. Let's hook her. Come Come on, baby. This is where this thing gets tricky, trying to compensate for the movement. Sometimes you tend to overcompensate, and that, of course, creates a whole new set of problems. And then you're all of a sudden in this nervous ballet of how much control is too much. All right, but we do have it hooked there, so we're just going to go straight up. And I do feel the tension, so I'm assuming that we've got it hooked. If you look on the SLA window, it does show the little green dot in the center. As long as that's there, you're good. That means you've got your cargo. So once again, we'll go back to the outside view, and we will head to our destination. Okay, we're getting close to our destination here. Obviously, there is a mountain in my way. That's what I get for going to the outside view, to show you some cinematic style. So we'll have to go around. Our waypoint is still highlighted because I really only set it up for one pickup and drop off. I didn't really want to do all three of them, so I just kind of set it up as one time instead of a repeating waypoint action. But at least that kind of gives you an idea as to where we're going. And the waypoint that it's got highlighted is where we're actually supposed to land this thing. So we'll do that after we drop this baby off. First thing, though, we will need to get to the deck. So once again, we're going to try and pull her down. And I need to be careful that the bug does not hit again where it does that thing. It wants to flip around and so on. All right, we are at 1900. Ooh, we're even higher than we were the last time. Holy crap, that mountain did a number on me. All right, we're going to lose a lot of forward airspeed in a moment as soon as I hit the pedal turn. Just making sure we are past the lighthouse, which we are. So we're just going to give it some pedal action here, lower the collective a little bit. And make sure our cargo is still hanging underneath. It looks like it's swinging a little to the left, but that's all right. Should stabilize itself in a moment. Or maybe not. I don't know. We'll find out in a second here. Helicopter definitely wants to buck all over the place. I'm thinking that is a bug related to having cargo attached. So just remember, like I said earlier, everything's a work in progress here. But there's definitely some weird physics going on that probably should not be there. All right, but we are going to give it some collective here, so that way we're not going to completely fall out of the sky. And we're going to make our way back over to that little power station with the smokestacks. So slowly but surely, we'll keep bringing her down. Keep my nose up just a bit. Technically, we are in a hover right now, so we do need to be careful with our rate of descent. Things can get out of hand really quickly. A good rule of thumb, probably no more than about 500 feet per minute descent, which if you look on the right-hand side, it says exactly what our rate of descent is in the upper right corner. Right now, it's minus 500. That's where we want to be. You want to keep it around there. You don't want to go much lower than that, especially lower than 1,000 feet per minute descent. That's when things start getting really hairy. All right, but slowly but surely, we're making our way down. Helicopters are definitely a lesson in patience. When you're flying these things, you need to be prepared for the unexpected at any point in time. This is a very unstable craft. And that's not even counting the fact that this is a work in progress. I'm just talking helicopters in general. All right, but we're still bringing her down, so this is good. We're at 450. That is feet above sea level. I don't want to push us too far forward here, so there we go. We want us basically in a hover. We are kind of sliding backward. You can tell by the blue line with the diamond. Like I said, it tells you exactly which direction you are moving, or drifting in this case. And we want to check the SLA map to see if we can find where we dropped off our other little cargo pod. And that'll kind of give us an idea as to where we want to drop this one. So we're at 145 feet right now. We're barely pushing forward at about 8 knots. We're looking for a red dot on the ground. That'll be a pretty clear indicator as to where our other cargo is. So we're just going to inch our way forward. And I see the red dot now, so we still need to push forward a bit. And the wind is blowing out of the north, so we do need to compensate for that. All right, right about there is where I want it, so we're kind of going a little too far forward here. I'll push us back a bit. Okay, right about there. We'll see if we can drop her down next to the other one. We're waiting for that orange line to turn green. I don't want to drop it on top of it, so we'll try to go down straight vertical. Also watch out for that wall. All right, everything's green. It should be on the ground now, so we'll let it go. All right, both of them should be on the ground now. So let's test that theory. We'll go to the outside view as we make our way around. Okay, yes, we certainly do have 2 items on the deck there. And I'm not sure if I actually flipped over the fuel drums. I may have. Yeah, looks like they might be upside down, but they arrived. We'll give it that. They arrived. I don't think I blew anything up, though, so as far as I'm concerned, that's a win. All right, so the last thing we need to do is we just need to find a nice place to land, which I have designated in that little parking lot across the street. So now comes the fun part. Thankfully, we don't have any dangling weight underneath us, so we just need to bring ourselves to a near hover, slowly but surely push ourselves forward, make sure we go over the fence, over the roof, and park it right on the lot. So I'm actually going to pull up our collective a little bit here just to kind of retard our forward movement. And we'll slowly but surely bring her down. Watch out for those trees. Oh boy. Oh boy. Almost lost it there. Yeah, see, this is what I'm talking about. It's that balance that you have to have with a helicopter in order to fly it. All right. And I don't want to go too far back because there is a fence behind me and I will flip. Okay, right about there is good. So we'll bring her in. Oh, you know what? That's good enough for government work. Allie is not impressed. Allie is not impressed. Okay. So now that we've done that, the final thing we need to do is just turn this sucker off. And here's how we're going to do that. Remember that little checklist that we used before? we're going to use it again. So we need to first go to the main menu. We'll go to checklist, and there's a conveniently placed shutdown checklist. First thing we need, parking brake needs to be on. Parking brake is located in the back. So we'll go ahead and scroll wheel that. Parking brake is now on. Second thing, fuel booster pumps need to be off. Fuel booster pumps are up here. There are two. So there's one, and the second one is on the other side. There we go. Both of those are done. Second or third thing is the APU cont. APU needs to be turned back on, and the generators need to be turned off. Now, since we're turning the APU back on, that also means we need our APU gen on. So we'll flip that to the on position. We'll look for APU gen. We'll turn U on, but we'll turn generator 1 off and generator 2 off. All right, going back to this. Now we can turn off our engine power. Typically in a real thing, I think you have to pull it back down to its idle position before you just turn it off. But since this is a simulated version, all we need to do is basically this. Provided, of course, I'll stop moving around here. All right, you come back, you come back, and then of course we also need to put that off and that off. Why are we still moving around here? I thought I've got the brakes on. Let me look outside here for a second. I hope I'm not like hitched on the fence. Nope, but I appear to have taken out the fence, so that's no bueno. All right, we're just going to kind of rotate ourselves here. All right, that should put us in a park. I thought I had my parking brakes on too. That's kind of wild. Okay, work in progress, folks. Work in progress. So engines off, fuels off, ignition key. We can now turn U off. And let's go to power down menu. APU gen off, fuel pump off, APU off, and then finally the batteries off. So let's do that real quick here. APU gen, that's U. We'll turn U back off. APU itself, turn U off. Let's get our, did we put on the collision lights? No, we didn't. Okay, then we won't worry about that. All right, what was the other things that we needed? Fuel pump and battery 1 and 2. Fuel pump should already be off, I thought. Oh, that's our air source. Well, we can turn you off anyway. Fuel pump is already off, so we're good to go there. All right, so the only other things we need to turn off are the standby instruments and our batteries. Now, before we turn the batteries off, since we don't want to see those numbers associated with the checklist, even when the engine's off, we'll just put it back to main menu here. And now that we are there, we can finally turn off the batteries. So there we go. And that, folks, is it. This, of course, is a bug. Set that back to iCast there, and that'll get rid of it. So yeah, obviously this is still a work in progress, but for what it is actually progressing quite nicely. It is one of my favorite little birds for Arma. And even though more than likely I'm probably not going to feature it as much with the official Voodoo Squad episodes, I did want to devote a good chunk of time here to kind of explain a little bit more about this bird and kind of show it off as best as I know right now. Obviously, I need more practice, but this will at least give you an idea of the level of immersion and interaction that is in this helicopter. So just to remind you, this is Project Hatchet, and it is the Project Hatchet H-60 family of helicopters. So you got the UH-60, the MH-60, the SH-60, the Nighthawk, all of that good stuff. It's all in there, and it is pretty cool. I think you also get the Soar bird, too. Okay, so now that that's all done, Allie, you and everybody else can now leave. Thank you very much for your assistance. And actually, I'm going to get out of here too. All right, good deal. Okay, so let's see how we did with our cargo as we call this episode done. I'm sure somebody will fix that fence. I'm just going to pretend like I did not see it. Whistling innocently here. And everybody should be following me, I think. Find out in a second here. We're going to send them over here. All right, well, 1 out of 2 ain't bad. I mean, it doesn't look like the fuel drums are any worse for wear. They're upside down, but they'll live. We got our supplies here with no problems, though, so that kind of works for me, too. Where the heck is my crew? Crew, assemble, right here. They'll show up eventually. Alrighty, folks, so yeah, thank you for watching. This has been BelGeode, and this has just been kind of like an Arma experimentation video is what we'll call it. So I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please feel free to give me a like. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already done so. I promise I am working on the real Arma 3 Voodoo Squad episodes, and those will start hopefully sometime soon. Until then, from sunny Malden, I wish you all adieu and have a great evening. Ciao. Oh, now you show up.